the judges already? And the timer as well? Okay. Oh, okay. I'll be starting at the top of the flow, addressing the affirmative, and moving down to the negative. I'm starting with actually the value. I'll address the definition later. My opponent said it's not external to the resolution. Unfortunately, he never provided a warrant for why a value has to be external. He said simply, well, it's not external, and so it's not a good measuring stick. But he never gave a warrant why it has to be external. And simply, this argument falls through because there is no warrant. He simply said it's not external. My opponent's second refutation was he said, well, it's circular. You know, human dignity and privacy are the same thing. But let's look carefully at the definition. Privacy is the state of being free from unwarranted intrusion. Whereas human dignity is the inherent worth of a human, a life, liberty, and property. Those are very different things. And so what I'm saying in this case is I'm saying, well, okay, so when we look at privacy, we see that when privacy is violated or undervalued, then human dignity, which is completely different, is violated as well. And so this leads me to the response for the third refutation. And that is that, actually let me respond to that second one still. And that is that human dignity and privacy are not circular. And in fact, it's the most consistent measuring stick for this round. More consistent than my opponent's. Because every single time privacy is undervalued, then human dignity is violated as well. So, if we look at human dignity, then that gives us an absolutely consistent 100% of the time measuring stick to actually look at this resolution. Whereas my opponent actually hasn't provided the same thing. My opponent said that privacy can be used to justify, for instance, actions such as pro-abortion. Now, my response is this is not within the definition of privacy I presented, and so we're going to get to the definition later. Under Convention 1, you can cross-apply those arguments. Under Convention 2, my opponent said that I was being circular, that human dignity and privacy all lead to one another, and so they're the same thing. However, he never repeated my application of Griswold v. Connecticut, which shows to us that privacy actually is the protection of human dignity. I never said that human dignity is the protection of privacy. I said human dignity is the goal. Privacy is the zone around it that protects it. The definitions are very different. This was unrefuted, so the proper value of privacy is actually the protection of human dignity. Under my third convention, my opponent didn't really refute this except by saying that they were all violations of property rights. However, under the definition, under my definition and his definition, these are all unwarranted intrusions upon someone's person. So they actually fulfill the definition of privacy that I have provided. And so they still are violations of privacy. And plus, my opponent gave no warrant as to why they were not privacy violations. He simply said they're not. They're actually just property violations. The impact still remains in these applications. Under my opponent's case, the resolutional analysis, my response is my opponent gave no response as to where the resolution is moral. He never explained why the resolution is amoral. And the reason for this is he talked about terrorists. However, if we look at a terrorist, he's not actually operating on my definition of privacy. And so he's not actually talking about privacy. If we look at a terrorist, the instance that they commit an action, they're actually harming someone else's human rights. And so in that instance that they're actually committing the action, they are actually violating privacy. They're outside of they're outside of the grounds of privacy. They're not acting within the grounds of privacy because they're violating human rights. And so my opponent's resolutional analysis is simply not true. The resolution is actually a moral concept because privacy is a moral concept. That was not refuted. National security, my beef with this is that it's self-conflicting. One protection of interest violates another, shown through the example of Hiroshima, where our national interest actually violated the Japanese when we were forced upon them to protect our own citizens. Under my opponent's contentions, I believe all the examples are not current, and so they fall with regard to the fact that we have to look at current examples. Looking at Southern Sudan, this was actually in the past. Now we see that Sudan actually has its privacy properly valued. In fact, this is an example, that privacy was actually undervalued during that time. This example actually shows us that during that time, privacy was undervalued. Under the September 11th attacks, our policies have changed. We've instituted the TSA and the Patriot Act, showing we actually value privacy. And my opponent brought up examples during World War II. World War II was a long time ago. It's not current. Thank you.